There is a moment in every journey when the weight feels unbearable, when the dream that once inspired you begins to feel like a burden, and every step forward demands more than you think you have left to give. It's the point where exhaustion blurs your vision and your inner voice begins to whisper, maybe this isn't worth it. That moment, when quitting seems like the most logical choice, is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you are getting closer, because the truth is, the closer you get to your breakthrough, the louder resistance will become. It will tempt you with comfort, it will seduce you with ease, and it will lie to you, telling you that stopping now is the smart thing to do. But this is not the moment to listen. This is the moment to lean in harder. The breaking point is not your end, it is your test. It is life asking you one simple question. How bad do you want it? Not when it's easy, not when you're winning, but when nothing is working, when the reward feels distant, when the effort feels endless. That's the test. And only those who keep walking, who refuse to stop, ever get to see what's waiting on the other side. Most people never find out how strong they really are because they quit right before they would have discovered it. They stop digging just inches from gold. They walk away, not because they lack talent or desire, but because they believed the lie that discomfort means defeat. But discomfort isn't your enemy. It's your signal. It tells you that you're exactly where growth begins. Every meaningful achievement in history was born out of someone pushing through that exact moment, a moment where they were tired, where the odds were stacked against them, and where nobody would have blamed them for giving up. But they didn't. They didn't fold. They didn't surrender to the temptation to rest, to settle, to shrink. They kept going, not because it was easy, but because they knew that quitting would haunt them far more than any temporary pain ever could. And this is the truth many forget. The pain of discipline weighs ounces, but the pain of regret weighs tons. When you give up on yourself, even silently, it cuts deeper than failure ever could. Because deep down, you know you didn't lose. You walked away. That's why the most powerful decision you will ever make isn't to start something. It's to keep going when every reason says stop. Anyone can begin. Anyone can chase a goal when the energy is high and the mood is right. But very few have the strength to continue when the spark fades, when the applause dies down, when the road gets lonely. That's where real character is forged. Not in moments of ease, but in moments of pressure. When you are tired, when you are frustrated, when you're staring down a wall that refuses to move, that's when you must decide, either I force myself through this moment, or I let this moment define me. Your power isn't found in how many times you've fallen, or how perfect your path has been. It's found in your decision to get up again, to take one more step when it doesn't even make sense, to silence the noise in your head and act anyway, because the ones who win in the end are not the most talented or the most gifted. They are simply the ones who refused to stay down, the ones who treated quitting not as an option, but as a betrayal of who they could have become. And when you see it that way, you understand the pain you feel now is temporary, but the strength you're building will serve you for a lifetime. So when that moment comes, when everything inside you wants to stop, don't. When it feels like nothing is working, keep moving. When your mind says it's over, prove it wrong. That moment is not your end. It's the beginning of who you were always meant to be. We are conditioned to run from pain, to avoid discomfort, to seek out the path of least resistance. It's human nature. But what we often fail to see is that pain in its purest form is not the enemy. It is the catalyst. It is the very thing that pushes us to become more than we were yesterday. The problem is not the pain itself, but how we interpret it. Most people see pain as a warning, a signal to stop. But those who rise, those who grow beyond the limits, they understand something deeper. Pain is the signal to keep going. It's a sign that the body is working, that the mind is being challenged, that the old version of you is breaking so that a new one can be born. Comfort feels safe, but it kills ambition. It lulls you into mediocrity. It whispers lies that you've done enough, that you're fine where you are, that reaching for more is unnecessary. But that comfort is a trap, and the more you feed it, the weaker you become. What you avoid today becomes your limitation tomorrow. Every time you dodge discomfort, you rob yourself of the growth it could have given you. You stay stuck. You stay small. You stay the same. True transformation comes only when you step into discomfort and choose to face it head on. The pain of pushing forward is never wasted. It sharpens your edge. It deepens your resolve. It prepares you for the next level. Growth is not handed out freely. It is earned in the fire of repetition, in the pressure of self-doubt, and in the chaos of the unknown. The longer you stay comfortable, the further you drift from your potential. That's the irony. The very thing we seek, peace, confidence, strength, is found on the other side of what we fear. And the only way to reach it is to lean into that discomfort and keep moving through it. You won't be the same person when you come out. You'll be stronger, sharper, clearer. And the pain that once seemed unbearable will become the foundation of the power you now carry. There comes a point in every journey where motivation fades into silence. The excitement that once fueled your actions starts to disappear. The fire that burned brightly in the beginning slowly dims. And this is where most people falter. Because they relied too heavily on how they felt. They mistook motivation for commitment. They believed they could ride a wave of energy all the way to the finish line. But the truth is, motivation was never meant to carry you through the storm. It was only meant to get you started. Discipline is what keeps you moving when motivation dies. It is the quiet force that says, I don't feel like it, but I'm doing it anyway. It's the voice that doesn't scream. It whispers. It doesn't care about comfort or convenience. It only cares about the commitment you made. Discipline is not exciting. It's not glamorous. It's often repetitive, lonely, and thankless. But it is in that repetition where the transformation happens. The more you show up, the more you build a reputation with yourself. You begin to trust your own word. You begin to believe deeply that you can rely on you. And that self-trust is priceless. Because in a world where emotions fluctuate, where energy rises and falls like the tide, discipline is your anchor. It grounds you when your mind wants to drift. It guides you back when distraction tries to pull you off course. The person who builds discipline doesn't just win one day. They win every day, even when no one is watching. They understand that the difference between mediocrity and greatness is not talent or luck. It's consistency, doing what needs to be done, especially when you don't want to. Every time you take action without waiting for the perfect mood, you're strengthening that muscle. You're teaching your body and mind that you are not controlled by feelings. You are led by purpose. And that shift is everything. Because purpose-driven actions are not dependent on emotion. They are rooted in decision. So when the motivation is gone, let that be your cue, not to stop, but to rise into discipline. That's when real progress begins. That's when your journey becomes unstoppable. Your mind is a powerful force, but it is also your greatest trickster. It knows your fears, your doubts, your insecurities, and it uses them to craft the most believable lies. Lies that sound like truth. Lies that feel like logic. It will tell you you're too tired, even when you have more to give. It will say the goal is too far, even when you've already come too far to turn back. It will point to past failures and use them as evidence that trying again is pointless. And if you don't learn to challenge that voice, it will control you. Most people never realize that their thoughts are not commands. They are suggestions. And not all suggestions deserve your obedience. The mind will always default to safety. It will always favor the known over the unknown, because its job is not to make you successful. Its job is to keep you alive. And survival doesn't care about purpose, passion, or potential. It only cares about certainty. So when you step into something new, something risky, something that stretches you, your mind goes into defense mode. It manufactures reasons to retreat, and if you're not conscious of this pattern, you'll confuse that resistance with truth. But growth demands that you become the master, not the servant, that you learn to pause and question the narrative playing in your head. Where did this thought come from? Is it based in fact or fear? Who would I be if I acted in spite of it? These questions are weapons. They weaken the grip of doubt, because doubt grows in silence, but it dies in examination. The most successful people in the world still feel fear, still hear the voice of resistance, but they don't follow it. They've trained themselves to recognize the difference between real limitations and imagined ones. They've learned to observe the mind without being ruled by it, and that awareness is a superpower. Because once you know your mind is capable of lying to protect your comfort, you stop believing everything it tells you. You begin to move forward, even with the noise in your head. That's not weakness. That's power. That's mental freedom. Nothing great is ever created without sacrifice. It's a silent truth that echoes behind every achievement, every success story, every transformation. The path to growth will ask for more than effort. It will demand that you give up parts of yourself that cannot survive at the next level. You cannot carry your excuses, your distractions, your fear of failure into the future you desire. Something must be left behind. And most people aren't willing to make that trade. They want the reward without the price. But the universe doesn't work that way. The more valuable the outcome, the higher the cost. If you want strength, you must sacrifice comfort. If you want clarity, you must let go of distraction. If you want greatness, you must be willing to release mediocrity, even if it's all you've ever known. This sacrifice is not always dramatic. Sometimes it's as simple as choosing to wake up earlier than you want to, saying no to one more scroll, one more excuse, one more reason to delay. Sometimes it's sacrificing your pride and asking for help. Sometimes it's sacrificing the need to be perfect and allowing yourself to grow through failure. But make no mistake, every version of growth comes with a price tag. You don't just evolve by wishing for it. You evolve by choosing what you're willing to lose in order to gain something greater. And the truth is, if you're not willing to sacrifice anything, you're not serious about change. Because the same habits, the same thinking, the same mindset that built your current life cannot build the life you dream about. You will have to let go. You will have to break patterns. You will have to confront parts of yourself that are holding you back. That's why many people choose to quit when the pressure increases, because sacrifice feels like loss, but it's not. It's an exchange. You give up who you were to become who you were meant to be. And once you embrace this truth, you stop fearing what you're losing and start focusing on what you're becoming. You begin to see that every time you choose sacrifice over comfort, you're stepping deeper into your potential. You're building something that can't be taken away, a stronger, sharper, more disciplined version of you. There is a certain kind of power that comes from refusing to give up, a quiet, unshakable force that builds in those who decide they will not be broken, no matter how heavy life gets. Success doesn't always belong to the smartest or the most talented. It belongs to the relentless, the ones who refuse to stay down even when they've been knocked over again and again, the ones who move forward without applause, without reassurance, without the comfort of certainty, while others hesitate, waiting for the perfect time. The relentless keep going. They understand something most people miss, that the breakthrough doesn't come to those who dabble. It comes to those who dig, deep, tirelessly, even when it looks like nothing is changing. Relentlessness is not about intensity, it's about consistency. It's the decision to keep showing up even when the results are invisible. It's what turns average effort into extraordinary outcomes. Most people quit because they expect fast rewards. They expect progress to show up quickly, to validate their efforts. But life doesn't reward the impatient. It tests them. It asks, how bad do you really want this? And only those who answer with action again and again get to taste the results. Because it's not your intention that creates success, it's your endurance. Can you keep going when it feels like nothing's working? Can you continue when the applause stops and the spotlight fades? Can you force yourself to give more, even when you're already tired? This level of grit comes from a deep-rooted decision, a decision that says, I am not available for failure. I am not available for quitting. No matter how long it takes, no matter how hard it gets, I keep going. That mindset doesn't just change your outcomes, it changes your identity. It turns you into someone who can no longer be shaken by the world because you've built something stronger within. And that's what relentless people understand. They're not chasing comfort, they're chasing greatness. And they're willing to endure everything the journey demands because they know one thing for sure. The person who refuses to give up is the one who always wins in the end. Every choice you make today is shaping the person you will become tomorrow. Whether you realize it or not, you are always in training. You are either strengthening discipline or reinforcing procrastination. You are either feeding courage or fueling fear. Nothing is neutral. Every small decision is casting a vote for the identity you are building. When you choose to show up, even when you're tired, you're training your future self to be resilient. When you do the hard thing instead of the easy one, you're creating a version of you that can handle pressure. And the more often you make those choices, the more automatic they become. It's not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. Because your future self will be a product of your current habits, not your current dreams. Most people underestimate the power of small actions. They think greatness is built in big moments, in the spotlight, under pressure, during life-changing events. But that's a lie. Greatness is built in the shadows, in quiet decisions that no one sees. It's built in choosing to stay focused when no one is watching, in pushing through the reps when your body wants to stop, in saying no to distractions when everyone else gives in. That's how champions are made, through invisible discipline. And every time you honor that process, you're creating a stronger version of yourself, one that doesn't depend on motivation, one that isn't swayed by how you feel, one that shows up regardless because you've trained it to. If you want to predict your future, look at your patterns. Look at how you respond to difficulty. Do you retreat or do you rise? Do you escape or do you endure? Because the future is not something that just happens, it's something you are constantly shaping with your decisions. And one day, when life tests you in a bigger way, it won't be luck that saves you. It'll be the habits you built, the strength you earned, the mindset you forged in the daily grind. That's the truth most ignore. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your training. Train wisely. Train with purpose. Train as if your future depends on it, because it does. At some point, the process will feel lonely, not because you are alone, but because you have chosen a path that few are willing to walk. The more you grow, the more you outgrow. You'll begin to notice that not everyone understands your mindset. Not everyone shares your urgency. Not everyone respects your discipline. And that realization can be painful. The people you once laughed with, wasted time with, or found comfort in may not be capable of walking with you into the next chapter. And that's okay. Growth is not a group activity. Transformation is not designed for the crowd. It is personal, it is deliberate, and it often comes with distance. The path to becoming your highest self will at times require isolation, not as punishment, but as preparation. Silence has a way of exposing truth. When you remove distractions, when the noise fades, you begin to hear your real thoughts. You begin to see what actually drives you. And though it can be uncomfortable, it is also liberating. Because when you stop depending on external validation, you finally start building something internal, something unshakable. The applause, the support, the encouragement, Those are nice, but they are not fuel. Your fuel must come from within, from a decision, a fire, a non-negotiable belief that you are meant for more. That belief will be tested when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when no one understands why you're still pushing. But if you endure that silence long enough, it becomes strength. This is where your identity begins to shift. You stop chasing approval. You stop needing people to get it. You begin to realize that solitude is not loneliness, it's elevation. It's in the solitude that clarity is found. It's where vision becomes sharp and purpose becomes personal. And those who can stand strong in that space, who don't shrink when the crowd disappears, are the ones who become unstoppable. Because once you no longer fear walking alone, you are truly free. And in that freedom you find power. Power to keep moving forward, not for recognition, not for praise, but because you've made a promise to yourself, a promise you refuse to break. There will always be a voice inside you that whispers, "You're not ready." It speaks in moments of decision, just before a leap, just before change. It tries to convince you that you need more time, more skill, more approval. But that voice is not wisdom, it is fear in disguise. And if you listen to it for too long, you'll spend your entire life waiting for the right time, waiting to feel confident, waiting for signs. But the truth is, readiness is not something that appears before action. It is something that is built through action. Confidence doesn't precede the step. It follows it. Growth does not wait for certainty. It thrives in movement. And those who succeed are not the ones who felt ready. They are the ones who moved anyway. Too many people spend years preparing, planning, hesitating, telling themselves that they're just being cautious, but in reality, they are hiding behind the illusion of preparation, hiding from the possibility of failure, hiding from their own potential. Because the moment you step forward, the moment you truly commit, you expose yourself, and that exposure is terrifying. But it's also necessary, because you cannot evolve in safety. You cannot discover your true strength while playing small. The leap you fear is the one that activates the version of you that's been waiting to be born, and no amount of thinking, analyzing, or waiting will bring that version to life. Only action can. You are more ready than you think, not because you have all the answers, but because you have the will to find them. Not because you feel brave, but because you're willing to move through fear. That willingness is everything. It is the gateway between who you are and who you're becoming. And the moment you decide to stop waiting, stop overthinking, stop doubting, you unlock something powerful. You realize that you don't need to feel ready. You need to be willing to show up, willing to try, willing to fail forward. Because readiness is not a state of mind, it's a state of commitment. And the second you commit, everything begins to shift. The truth is, no one is coming to save you. No one is going to hand you the life you dream of. No one is going to knock on your door and offer you purpose, confidence, or success. That responsibility is yours. And while that may sound heavy, it's also the most empowering realization you can ever embrace, because it means you don't have to wait for permission. You don't have to wait for perfect timing. You don't have to wait for someone to believe in you before you start believing in yourself. You have the power right now to begin building something greater, but it starts with one decision: to take full ownership of your journey. No more blaming circumstances, no more pointing fingers, no more waiting on external forces to push you forward. The moment you accept complete responsibility, you reclaim your power. Ownership is what separates the average from the extraordinary. It's what turns excuses into fuel. It's what transforms failure into feedback. People who take ownership don't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" They ask, "What am I going to do about it?" That shift in mindset changes everything. Because when you stop viewing yourself as a victim of your environment, you start becoming the architect of your future. You begin to realize that even if you didn't cause the pain, you're responsible for the healing. Even if you didn't create the challenge, you're responsible for how you respond. And in that responsibility lies unmatched freedom. It's easy to wait for motivation. It's easy to blame others. But real power comes from action. Consistent, disciplined, intentional action. The kind of action that says, no matter how I feel, no matter what the world throws at me, I am in control of what I do next. That mindset builds resilience. It builds character. It builds momentum. And over time, that momentum becomes unstoppable. So don't wait for someone to rescue you. Don't wait for the stars to align. You are the hero of your own story, the author, the force, the one who decides how this ends. Own your power, own your path, and keep moving forward, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, because that's where the real transformation begins.